You did take a jab at Microsoft with that concurrent vMotion, though.
Not explicitly called them out, but I do think the notion that having a single vMotion you can run is substantial enough for what you need today. It's kind of a subtle point. I'm not sure how many people picked it up. I tried to use a moving van analogy for that. But it is really true because people are running, we have many tens of thousands of VMs in a deployment now. And if the idea of moving just one at a time just seems kind of ridiculous. So I guess you picked up on that.
I guess I'd like to get your opinion. You talked a little bit about private cloud and public cloud and the hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think companies, organizations, will eventually get out of the business of building data centers and go to a complete public cloud as an infrastructure as a service?
I personally don't think any company of size will go strictly that way. If I personally were starting a startup today, I would I wouldn't build a data center anytime in the near future. So smaller companies particularly go straight to the public cloud. I personally see in some emerging economies where they don't have any of the existing legacy or even skill set perhaps, they might go straight there. But it's going to take so long for people to have everything from concerns over performance levels and security, as well as even just government agencies who know how to audit HIPAA compliance and SOX. So I wouldn't think that's anytime near.
Next 10 years?
Next 10 years. Who knows? I don't think it'll ever get the case where you're not building some type of local one. And I do think also, one of our goals is, of course, to give the tools to make it a similar economic choice, whether you're running local or remote. And that's what a lot of people are recognizing, is that it's not always cheaper to run something in the public cloud if you have a very well-tuned IT department. So I definitely wouldn't make a prediction that it's going all one way or the other.
So you talked a lot about private cloud and some of the automation tools. I'll come back to some of the acquisitions because I feel, well, let's talk about that. So it feels like some of the acquisitions that you guys announced today kind of step over some of the existing VMware tools, Lab Manager, some of the automation tools that you already have. How are the new tools going to be positioned in the future?
Well, we announced two acquisitions, and actually the first one in the vCenter space, or in the general data center space, was Integrion.
Right.
Pretty small company based in actually Armenia is where they do a lot of their engineering. Really great stuff. For me, it's not about a new product tool or anything like that. We haven't announced what we'll do exactly with it, but it's about the new way that you have to manage these things. It's incredible. If you're into this stuff, if you haven't seen it before, you should definitely check it out. But it's literally this idea of heat maps and dashboards, and the idea that you're running 10,000 plus virtual machines and can possibly look at events coming from all of them. It really needs to be something smarter that's processing.
A little more visual.
So I definitely think the approach they've taken and the people and the technology is pretty fascinating. And then we'll figure out and announce from an existing product standpoint what we do. The other one, I mentioned it super quickly during a demo, but just maybe to get it on the record with you all. So it's TriCipher, and they're a company that does single sign-on approaches for SaaS applications. A SaaS vendor can choose to incorporate their approach, and in exchange, rather than have your own custom password for Workday or SuccessFactors, it'll actually plug into the company's Active Directory. So I log into Windows, and then from that point, any SaaS application I log into keeps my credentials and keeps it safe. So it's not the end answer by any means, but it's a key step for us in really bringing SaaS applications in line with traditional and the enterprise apps.
So it's tying into Active Directory. It's not doing any kind of a screen scrape and passing the credentials through, right? There's APIs that are tying directly into.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that people do this. I like the one that they do. There's other companies that do it different ways. We'll have a lot of approaches because there's not a one-size-fits-all. But the most important thing for the customers we're hitting on so far is that if a user leaves a company, you can actually now revoke their access to the SaaS applications where company data is. That's one of the most common questions we always get is, cool, you're doing all your development on Amazon.com. You left the company and now all your code and data are over there. As an IT department, you have no control over access to those resources.
So you talked a lot about automation, but it seems like to build a private cloud, most of the automation that you mentioned today in the keynote was logical. How do we tie in the logical automation that we're talking about with the compute resources all the way through? Like, will that ever tie into vBlock, for example?
Yeah. No, that's a great question, and that's something that increasingly people are being asked about, especially as we get very big service provider partners. You need to be able to not only get the request to start up a new org and a new customer, you need to set up the right VLANs, you need to allocate the physical storage, you need to plug in the blades. And so there's a lot of great announcements coming out here. This is largely where the partners are doing some important things. So I definitely would encourage you, if you're not planning on it, to get the briefings from, actually HP is doing some very interesting integrations with vCloud Director, as are certainly the vBlock folks. So it's actually, a lot of people haven't picked up on that yet, but you need to be able to combine the automation of the logical with the fulfillment on the physical side. But there's some great stuff that'll be shown. I know HP's is tomorrow, and I forgot when the vBlock, I think that's later today.
Okay. I'd like to shift just a little bit from cloud to a little more the VDI and desktop virtualization stuff.
More questions? Sure.
Are we running? Time's flying.
Client virtualization platform. That kind of disappeared, and a lot of the questions we're getting asked, is that technology dead?
Yeah. I suspected you'd ask that. No one's asked me that directly yet. So we obviously look at the world from a couple different points. Some people like to get focused on type 1 versus type 2 hypervisors. I think there's an important use case for both of those in this world. What we're really trying to satisfy with the release of 4.5, and we realized this after working on it for quite a while, the notion of bring your own device or bring your own PC is really what was resonating with all the customers. If you go with a type 1 hypervisor model, you largely need to pick a set of laptops. You need to port the hypervisor to that specific set and try to keep up with power management and all the hard things. And then a customer, when they want to move to this offline mode, they need to point all their employees to buy that specific device. So what we're doing with this mode is more of called the type 2 hypervisor. I personally don't like those terms, but it's about installing it on any of your existing laptops. And so for the market we were trying to go after, most companies said, let me get these offline capabilities, but don't make me go buy a specific new device.
Gotcha.
Let people bring in whatever they have.
So that development is done then?
No, it's not done. I do see a world for both, and we'll do a balance of them over time. We're not making any announcements today on the other approach, but with the launch of 4.5, we're clearly stating that we think people should be able to bring their own devices and get the benefit as the first step. Okay,
can I have one more question? During your keynote, you mentioned something about taking a virtual machine offline, being able to install applications, and synchronizing that back to the VM. Was that a mistake, or was that truly what you can actually install applications?
It's definitely true. This is the offline mode, so it literally is, I can do anything inside that virtual machine that I've now checked out of VDI. It's on whatever device I happen to be running it on, and I have the disk image, it's actually cached out on that device. So anything I actually change there, I can say, whether it's new registry settings, new documents, or new apps, I know exactly what changed in the disk image, and I'm going to stream just that part back out. So it's the new master that goes out there. It's incredibly cool. I mean, it's really, if you just begin to think of devices as a cache of your master personality, I don't know if people think as caches, but anyway, that's
different type of cache typically.
The more consumer cache.
It's a good last question. It seems like we've gotten to the point where you guys were solving a lot of headaches for IT administrators for a long time. And what I like to see is that it's finally, we're starting to get to the point where you're solving headaches for the users. And I know that you guys were always, user first probably. It's one of the many things that I probably said, but it seems like being able to check out your machine. I mean, that's a very use case centric focus. It's finally getting to the point where, okay, I see the benefits of virtualization, and it's not just that my IT guy is not
exactly. I don't know that we present it super well, but we're trying to make just such a clear distinguishing between IT production and making it efficient, and ultimately the consumption. That's why we made the stage a little bit goofy, but it is like, if you can really go to a person and say, I can make your work life as efficient and fun as your home life, that's what I thought it was all about.
It's great.
Pretty neat.
Well, it'll be interesting to see when it all comes together. I feel like next year we'll have another interesting talk, and I'm sure you guys will make a lot of progress, and we'll make Ulysses hook that up and put it on the record now. So,
Join us in Europe, or you're going to?
I am not.